A long wait of 10 months. Even through the agony. A pain so intense it felt like every bone in her body was shattering. Grace bit her lip, determined not to lose consciousness. The thought of finally meeting her child filled her heart to bursting. She managed a faint smile. Just then, the doctor wiped beads of sweat from his brow and spoke with a bright voice. "Congratulations. He's a healthy baby boy. You did an amazing job, Mom." In that one short sentence, Grace felt like she had gained the whole world. But the reaction from her husband, David, who should have been right there by her side, was ice cold. Grace, feeling the heavy pull of the painkillers on her eyelids, struggled to lift them and look at David. He wasn't even glancing at their newborn son's face. Instead, he was staring intently at his phone screen, as if the house were on fire. Grace asked in a cracked voice, "Honey, who was that? Who's calling you so much at a time like this?" Startled, David quickly shoved the phone into his pocket as if to hide it. "Oh, it's nothing. Just my mom and my sister. Don't worry about it, it's nothing important." But contrary to his words, the phone continued to vibrate in his pocket. "Suspicious?" Grace asked again. "What is it? Have they already heard the news? Are they pestering you for a picture of the baby?" Without making eye contact, David gave a curt reply. "Yeah, I think so. I'll handle it." His voice was short and dry. It wasn't filled with the wonder of a new father, but with the impatience of someone trying to get a tedious chore out of the way. Just then, a nurse approached, holding the baby, who was beautifully swaddled in a blanket. "Ma'am, would you like to see your baby? He came out so healthy and strong. He's a little champion, just like his dad." At the nurse's words, Grace extended her trembling arms and held her child. The moment she felt the small, warm bundle in her embrace, the hot tears she had been holding back streamed down her cheeks. "You had a long journey coming to Mommy, my son. I love you so much." Grace was overcome with emotion as she stroked the baby's soft cheek. Yet, even in that moving moment, David was solely fixated on taking pictures. Without a single word about wanting to hold his son, he just kept making clicking sounds with his phone, like a news reporter on assignment. One shot, two, then 10 more. David just kept pressing the shutter. "Is this enough? I hope the quality is good." Grace, unable to comprehend her husband's attitude, asked, "Honey, why don't you take pictures later and hold the baby? He's so warm." But David waved his hand dismissively. "Ah, no. Later. I have to send these to Mom right now. She's been waiting on pins and needles." He averted his gaze from the baby and fiddled with the message window on his phone. Seeing him prioritize his mother's command over the joy of being a new father, Grace felt a chill run down a corner of her heart. After the nurse took the baby away, a strange silence once again filled the hospital room. David was still staring at his phone. When it vibrated loudly again, Grace couldn't hold back any longer. "See? It's your mom. She'll worry if you keep ignoring her calls." "Ah, right. I'll get it. Just a second." As if he had been waiting for permission, David stepped out into the hallway to take the call. Through the crack in the closing door, Grace could hear his voice. "Yeah, Mom. It's a boy. He's healthy. I just sent the pictures. Did you get them?" Grace stared blankly at the ceiling. A strange sense of alienation washed over her as she watched her husband, who was more concerned with reporting to his family than checking on the wife, who had just gone through a near-death experience to give birth to their child. When David came back into the room, his expression was tense. He glanced at Grace cautiously before speaking. "Grace, Mom is asking if she can talk to you now. Is it okay if I put her on?" Grace, in disbelief, asked back. "Right now? I just gave birth and I can barely think straight and she wants to talk to me now?" That's what I told her, but she said she has something important to talk about. Just for a minute. Without waiting for Grace's answer, David pressed the phone to her ear. Immediately, the booming voice of her mother-in-law, Brenda, filled the line. "Grace, you worked hard with the delivery. It's such a relief you had a son. Do you know how worried I was that our family name wouldn't be carried on?" "Yes, thank you, Brenda." Though it stung that the word relief came before congratulations, Grace responded politely. But Brenda's real agenda started there. "Yes, I know you went through a lot, but David took care of the hospital bill, right? Your parents didn't chip in or anything?" Grace was so stunned, she was at a loss for words. Asking her daughter-in-law, who had given birth less than an hour ago, about the source of the hospital fees. "Yes, David paid for it, with the money we saved up." "Good. Then that's settled. But think of how much money it's going to take to raise a child from now on. Is your savings account looking healthy? Are you prepared?" "We're preparing. little by little. But Brenda, why are you asking about this? As Grace's voice trembled, Brenda's only grew louder. Why am I asking? I'm worried about my grandson's future. That's why? You're not working right now, just sitting at home. How are you going to raise that precious child on David's single income? If you don't get your act together, my son is the only one who will suffer. Do you understand? Brenda, I'm really exhausted right now. I'll talk to you later. What's so exhausting? What's so hard about lying down and talking on the phone for a few minutes? Are you being dramatic? You can't even handle this? Brenda relentlessly pushed Grace, giving her no room to breathe. Finally, Grace sighed and answered, I understand. I'll see you when I'm discharged. Good. When you leave the hospital, come straight to our house. Don't even think about one of those fancy recovery centers. There's an important decision to be made, so you have to come. The call was disconnected unilaterally. Grace handed the phone back to David and asked in a trembling voice, Why on earth does she want me to come to your parents' house right after being discharged? What is she planning to talk about? I don't know. Mom just said it's something very important. What could be so important that she'd stop a new mother from going to a recovery center? Honey, shouldn't you try to talk her out of it? Grace, please. Let's just get through today. I'm exhausted, too. Talking about it now will only make things more complicated. David turned his head away with an irritated tone. Grace clutched the blanket tightly. A premonition that something was terribly wrong flashed through her mind. That evening, during visiting hours, her mother-in-law Brenda and sister-in-law Jessica stormed into the room. Jessica, carrying a flashy designer bag, immediately started making a fuss. Oh, Grace, you did so well. The baby is the spitting image of David. Brenda didn't even look at Grace, heading straight for the baby's bassinet. My sweet boy, my grandson is so handsome. You can tell he has our family's blood. Grace, pushing through the pain, managed to sit up and greet them. Brenda, thank you for coming. Only then did Brenda turn around and wave a dismissive hand. It's fine. Stay in bed. Don't try to get up and then complain you're dizzy. Jessica, who had been standing by, sat down next to Grace's bed and asked with narrowed eyes. So, your parents haven't come yet? Their daughter just had a baby, and they're still not here. My parents are coming tomorrow. It's a bit of a long drive. Oh, but still, it's their first grandchild. Shouldn't they have rushed right over? Your parents are certainly laid back. My mom would have been living at the hospital by now. Jessica's sarcastic tone made Grace's chest tighten, but she held her tongue. Just then, Brenda came over, grabbed Grace's hand tightly, and said, Grace, you haven't forgotten what I said on the phone, have you? When you're discharged, cancel the recovery center reservation and come straight to our house. Tell your parents that, too. Brenda, we've already paid the deposit, and I need to recover properly. Why the sudden change? What a waste of money. What recovery center? I have my reasons, so don't argue with me. This is for you, David, and our grandson. Brenda left the room with a satisfied, cruel smile. Left alone, Grace looked at her husband, David, but he was still just staring out the window. Swallowing the tears that were welling up, Grace made a resolution. Whatever they were plotting, she would not just sit back and take it. Finally, the day of discharge arrived, but Grace's heart was heavy. She had assumed they would be heading to the postpartum recovery center, but David started driving in the direction of his parents' house. Clutching her throbbing back, Grace struggled to hold the baby in the passenger seat and asked, Honey, can't we just go straight to the recovery center? My whole body aches, and even sitting here is so hard. Despite Grace's earnest plea, David kept his eyes on the road and answered dryly, Mom said to come by first. She made it very clear she has something important to discuss. We'll just show our faces and leave quickly. How can we just ignore her when she's asked us to come? Her husband's reply was cold, and Grace, lacking even the energy to argue, closed her eyes. As soon as they arrived in front of the in-laws' house, the front door burst open, and Brenda came out to greet them with a bright smile. It was an uncharacteristically, almost excessively, friendly welcome. You're here, my sweet boy and my dear daughter-in-law. You must be exhausted. Come on in. I've been simmering a rich chicken and vegetable soup for you all morning. Grace, holding the baby, limped inside. Thank you, Brenda. I was feeling a bit under the weather, so I'll enjoy it. On the living room sofa, her sister-in-law Jessica was already seated. Seeing Grace enter, Jessica shot up from her seat and gushed, Oh, Grace, you're finally here. Let me see my nephew's face. Oh my, he looks like a little doll. How can he look so much like my brother? Jessica cooed at the baby, but she didn't offer a single warm word to Grace. Brenda practically forced Grace onto the sofa and then brought out a steaming bowl of soup from the kitchen. Finish this first. After giving birth, you have to eat a lot of soup for your body to recover quickly. Grace, thinking it was a kind gesture, gratefully accepted the bowl. She was a few spoonfuls into the hot soup, warming her body, when Brenda sat down next to her and casually started to speak. Grace, now that you're a mother, you have to think realistically. It's going to cost a fortune to raise our precious grandson. You've already set up a trust fund for him, right? At the sudden mention of money, Grace briefly set down her spoon and replied, "A trust fund? I haven't thought that far ahead yet. He was just born." Instantly, the tone of Brenda's voice shifted and rose. "What? You haven't thought about it? You're quite carefree, are you? Shouldn't you have planned all of that before the baby was even born?" For a mother to be so thoughtless, Grace felt like she was suddenly a criminal and lowered her head. "I'm sorry. I was so busy preparing for the birth and then having him that I didn't get a chance to think about it." "Fine. It can happen. It's your first time. But I heard from David that you have money coming in every single month." In that moment, Grace's hand began to tremble. With a look of disbelief, she glanced at David, who was standing nearby. He avoided her gaze and turned to look out the window. "I'm not sure how you heard about that, Brenda." Brenda looked Grace straight in the eye and pressed her. "I heard everything from David. He told me your parents deposit $5,000 into your account every month. Is that true?" Grace felt like she was suffocating, but she had no choice but to nod. "Yes, that's correct. My parents give it to me for my living expenses." The second those words left her mouth, Brenda clapped her hands with a wide smile. "Well then, that settles it. What is there to even think about? We'll just use that money to create a trust for our grandson and save it up diligently." Flustered, Grace quickly interjected, "Brenda, that's my personal allowance. It's for me to use as I see fit." Brenda's expression instantly hardened. "Grace, are you in your right mind? Now that you've had a child, there is no you. There is only mother. What's my money and his money? That money is now this family's money, the baby's money." Her sister-in-law, Jessica, who had been watching from the side, chimed in slyly. "And that $5,000 comes from your parents, right? $5,000 a month is $60,000 a year. Are you planning to just swallow that huge amount of money all by yourself?" David works his fingers to the bone. "Isn't that a little selfish of you?" Jessica's taunting words made Grace feel like her chest would explode. "It's not selfish. It's money my parents give me because they're thinking of me. I'm not the one being unreasonable here." "Oh, you're not? Look at how your voice is trembling." "Honestly, Grace, we're just saying this because we all want to raise our nephew well. Do you think formula and diapers are cheap? If you want to send him to a good school and then college, you need to start saving all that money now." Brenda now moved in close, right up to Grace's face, and spoke threateningly. "Listen to me carefully, Grace. That $5,000 is no longer your money. It's this family's, our grandson's money. Understand? Brenda, that money is deposited into an account under my name. It's my right. I asked you if you understand." Brenda shrieked, and the baby in her arms startled and burst into tears. As if on cue, Jessica snatched the baby from her and tutted. "See, Grace? The baby is crying because he knows his mother is being greedy about money. Aren't you ashamed of yourself in front of him?" Grace felt like she was about to burst into tears, but she bit her lip and held on. But Brenda wasn't finished. "Open a new account, in the baby's name, and every month, when that $5,000 comes in, deposit it all without another word. I'll manage it." "You'll manage it? Why would you manage my money? Do you even know how to manage money? If a young thing like you gets $5,000 a month, you'll get a big head and spend it all at the mall. How can I trust you? I'll save every penny for my grandson. So you just do as you're told." A woman who's married into a family has no business talking about my money. It's all family money. Grace realized she could not stay in this place any longer. Her whole body was trembling and her heart was pounding. She shot up from her seat. "I should be going now." "Where are you going?" "We're not done talking. You're not leaving until you give me a clear answer," Brenda screamed. But Grace snatched the baby from Jessica's arms and walked towards the front door. "I'm not feeling well, so I need to go to the recovery center. We can talk later." David, flustered and unsure of what to do, followed her out. Once in the car, Grace stared out the window, crying silent tears. Her husband, David, gripped the steering wheel, but remained silent, not offering a single word of apology. Grace made a vow. She would protect her life and her money from their greedy hands, no matter what. 3 days had already passed since she had checked into the postpartum recovery center. She was trying to find a moment of peace while watching her soundly sleeping baby, but the quiet of the room was broken by a call from David. Worried about waking the baby, Grace answered in a hushed voice. "Hello? Is it okay to talk now? The baby's sleeping." Over the phone, David's voice sounded much more urgent and sharp than usual. Grace instinctively felt that something else had happened. "Yeah, I just put him down." "What is it? Why do you sound so rushed?" "Grace, we have a huge problem. I think my sister called all our relatives. About your family." The moment she heard those words, Grace's hand froze. Her mind went blank, and her heart began to pound. What did she tell them? "I never said anything." So what could she possibly know? "A rumor has spread that your father is an incredibly wealthy tycoon. My sister has been telling everyone, and now all my aunts and uncles know." A long silence followed. Grace steadied her trembling breath and slowly began to speak. "How did she find out?" "I only told you and asked you to keep it a secret." "Mom must have told her." "I think Mom guessed after seeing the $5,000 deposits every month. And my sister added her own details and spread it all over the family. The relatives are in an uproar. They're all asking why we hid something so big, why we concealed your father's identity when we got married. Everyone has something to say." Grace let out a deep sigh and touched her forehead. Her wish to live a quiet life was shattering into pieces. "I never hid anything. I just didn't think it was necessary to mention it. Why does my family background matter so much to our marriage?" Suddenly, David's voice rose in anger. "Grace, something like this, you obviously should have told us. If I had known your father was Robert Carter, the famous chairman, do you think I would have lived like this? This is practically marriage fraud." Grace felt a chill run down her spine at her husband's blatant reaction. "Honey, you didn't marry me for my father's money, did you? Didn't we start this because we loved each other? Whoever my father is, what does that matter to us now?" "It matters. It changes everything. If we had known you were a tycoon's daughter, my family's treatment of you would have been different, and I could have held my head higher. You have to think about the family's reputation." "What is this?" At David's shouting, the baby flinched and started to stir. Grace, unable to take it anymore, ended the call. Her fingertips trembled, and tears welled in her eyes. The next morning, without any warning, her mother-in-law Brenda burst into Grace's room at the recovery center. Trailing behind her, as expected, was her sister-in-law Jessica, wearing the expression of someone announcing a great victory. "Grace, we need to talk. How long do you plan on hiding like this?" Brenda's face was completely different from a few days ago. There was no trace of concern for her daughter-in-law. Instead, her eyes were filled with the greedy calculations of someone who had just discovered a gold mine. "Please have a seat, Brenda. What brings you all the way to the recovery center?" "I don't have time to sit. We need to settle this quickly." Brenda stood defiantly in front of Grace's bed, with her arms crossed, and began to interrogate her. "Grace, is it true? Is your father the famous Robert Carter? The one who runs the biggest construction firm in the region?" Realizing she couldn't avoid it, Grace gave a small nod. "Yes, that's correct, but it is true." "My God, how could you have a man like that for a father and keep your mouth shut about it? Were you trying to make a fool of our family? If you were the daughter of such a prominent family, the wedding gifts, the contributions, everything should have been on a different level." Jessica, watching from the side, chimed in venomously, her eyes flashing. "Honestly, Grace, I just don't get it. With a family that powerful, shouldn't you have been bragging to us and offering to help? To hide your father's identity and let my brother struggle like that. You're a scary person, Grace. I didn't think my family background was important for our marriage. I just wanted to live as David's wife. Not important? Oh, Grace, a family like that changes the world. Your father probably makes more in a day than we could earn in a lifetime." Frustrated by Jessica's exaggerated reaction, Grace asked, "So, now that it's out, what exactly is supposed to change?" Brenda scoffed and answered mockingly, "What's supposed to change? My attitude, of course. If you're the daughter of a family like that, you need to fulfill your duties as a daughter-in-law. Because you were always so quiet and kept to yourself, we look down on you. From now on, start acting like the daughter of that family." Brenda now dropped all pretense and revealed her true intentions. "Arrange a meeting with your father immediately. I have something to say to him in person." "What are you planning to say to him?" My father is a man who keeps his personal and professional lives strictly separate. What do you mean? What am I going to say? I need to secure support for my grandson's education and upbringing, of course. With that kind of wealth, it's only natural for him to give his grandson a building or something, don't you think? Grace was so dumbfounded she couldn't speak. Brenda, my father would never do something like that. And I have absolutely no intention of asking him. What do you mean? He wouldn't. If I go to him and get on my knees, he'll listen. I am the grandmother of the grandson who will carry on our family line. Grace shook her head firmly. No, I will never allow it. What do you mean? No. Who are you to block your mother-in-law's path? Where do you get the nerve to talk back to me? Brenda's face flushed red and purple as her voice grew louder. The sounds of other mothers whispering outside the door could be heard, but Brenda didn't care. Grace, listen to me when I'm being nice. Give me your father's phone number. If you won't do it, I'll do it myself. Brenda, I will handle my father. Don't drag him into this anymore. Grace's voice was low, but it was as cold as ice. At her firm stance, Brenda couldn't contain her rage and threw the handbag she was holding onto the bed. Fine. If you're going to be this selfish until the end, then I have my own ideas. You'll regret this later, and it will be too late. Let's go, Jessica. Brenda slammed the door so hard it seemed like it would break, and Jessica followed, tutting about how unreasonable Grace was. After the storm passed, Grace stared blankly at the cold scenery outside the window. To them, she was no longer family. She was prey with a lot to be taken. Grace felt to her bones how easily the name of family could be corrupted by money and clenched her fists tightly. Starting that evening, Grace's phone began to vibrate incessantly. Lying on her bed at the recovery center, trying to soothe her aching back and close her eyes for a moment, the phone rang without mercy. The first call was from David's aunt. It was someone whose voice she usually only heard once a year on a holiday, so a call at this hour was unusual. Grace answered the phone, her voice hoarse. Hello? Auntie? What's going on at this hour? Grace, it's David's aunt. I'm sorry to call so suddenly, but I'm so curious I can't sleep. I heard your father is a big-shot businessman. Is that really true? The aunt's voice was filled not with concern, but with excitement and curiosity. Though her body was so heavy that even answering was difficult, Grace maintained her politeness. Yes, he runs a company. Oh my, then why didn't you say a word about it when you got married? If our David had known, his life would have been completely different. Grace, you're a scary one, hiding that and marrying into our family. I didn't hide it. I just didn't think it was necessary to mention. Not necessary. A family of that stature. Of course you should have told us beforehand and shown the proper respect. It breaks my heart to think of David living so humbly all this time. The aunt, without a word of apology, was busy blaming Grace, who could only say a weak "I'm sorry" before hanging up. But the ordeal wasn't over. As soon as she hung up, her uncle's number appeared on the screen. Grace, it's your uncle. I heard from Brenda today that your father is a very powerful man in this region. He's just a businessman. Uncle, just a businessman? I heard he's the chairman of the biggest company in the area. So why did you hide that from us? Did you think we were beneath you? The uncle immediately started shouting in an irritated voice. Grace buried her face in her pillow, feeling a sense of despair. I didn't hide it, uncle. Then what was it? We were completely in the dark until now. That's the same as deceiving us. You're a cunning one. Once again, Grace had to apologize. What was showered upon a new mother, not even a week after giving birth, wasn't congratulations, but reprimands for not letting them get a whiff of money sooner. An hour later, David walked into her room at the recovery center, his face flushed. He didn't even check on Grace's condition, just fiddled with his phone and said, Grace, you must have gotten a lot of calls. I'm sorry. My sister posted an article about your father in the family group chat. I tried to stop her, but it had already spread. Grace looked at her husband with a trembling voice. Honey, I'm so exhausted right now. It hasn't even been a week since I gave birth, and being interrogated by all your relatives is making me lose my mind. Shouldn't you be the one to stop them? At that, David put on an apologetic expression, but slyly got to his point. I know. I'm sorry. But Mom wants to talk to you directly. She said she wants to clear up the misunderstanding from earlier today, so could you please take her call? What misunderstanding? What did I do wrong that needs clearing up? As Grace's voice trembled, David asked cautiously but with very specific questions. It's not that you did anything wrong. She just wants a more detailed explanation. Like the exact scale of your father's company, how much property is in your name, and if there are any plans for financial support for us in the future. You know, things like that. Grace stared at David, doubting her own ears. Are you investigating me right now? Am I some kind of criminal? It's not an investigation. It's just that Mom is so curious. We're family. We can share that much, can't we? If she's so curious, she should ask me directly. Why is she hiding behind you and tormenting me? When Grace finally couldn't take it anymore and screamed, the baby sleeping next to her startled and burst into tears. David, flustered, reached out to hold the baby, but Grace fiercely slapped his hand away and pulled the baby into her arms. Get out of here right now. I don't want to see your face. No, it makes my skin crawl. Grace, we need to talk this through. Why are you being so sensitive? Sensitive? Have you even looked at the state I'm in? I said, get out. Get out now. Eventually, David left the room as if he had been kicked out. Grace, catching her breath between sobs, soothed her crying child. The next morning, her mother-in-law Brenda visited the recovery center again. This time she was alone, without Jessica, and was pretending to be gentle on the surface. Grace, I got a little too excited yesterday. I'm sorry. How is your body feeling? Brenda pulled a chair close and tried to take Grace's hand, but Grace subtly pulled it away. I'm fine. Brenda, good. Let's clear up all the misunderstandings and be honest with each other. I just have a few things to ask. I heard your father's company has several hundred employees. What's the exact scale? I don't know. I'm not interested. You don't know? You're his daughter. How can you not know? Are you lying to me, too? Brenda's eyebrows twitched as her true colors began to show. Grace answered slowly, but firmly. It's not strange. I've always lived without getting involved in my father's business. My father wanted it that way, too. It's not that you're not involved. It's that you were determined to hide it from us. Isn't it? Why are you keeping your mouth shut like that? You are truly audacious. Brenda's sharp voice pierced the air in the room. Grace, no longer holding back, raised her voice as well. How many times do I have to tell you that I'm not hiding anything? Then why can't you answer properly? As a daughter, you should naturally know the scale of your family's assets. Isn't that basic respect for your parents? Why do I have to report the details of my family's assets to you? Brenda, is that a daughter-in-law's duty? It's not a report. It's sharing because we're family. Are we strangers? As Brenda shot up and pointed a finger at her, the anger Grace had been suppressing exploded. Family. If we're family, shouldn't you have asked about the condition of a new mother first? It hasn't even been a week since I gave birth, and from the moment you saw me, all you've talked about is money and the size of a company. Do you even see me as a person? At Grace's roar, other new mothers and nurses passing by in the hallway stopped to look into the room. What? Did you just scream at me? At your mother-in-law? Did I say something wrong? Have you even once asked me if I was okay, or if I was in pain? I just assumed you were fine since you're in a medical facility. Where do you get off being so high and mighty? Assumed I was fine? Do you think childbirth is like clipping your nails? My bones feel like they've all been pulled apart, and all you can talk about is money. Are you out of your mind? Brenda, conscious of the onlookers, bit her lip tightly, grabbed her bag, and stood up. Fine. If you're going to be like this, I have my ways. We'll see how long you can keep this up. Brenda shot a venomous glare before slamming the door and leaving. Grace collapsed onto the bed, clutching her trembling legs. At a time when she should have been most blessed, Grace was being cruelly torn apart by the people she had trusted most. But she made a decision. She would not offer a single cent of money or a single shred of mercy to those who were trying to crush her in her weakened state. The night at the recovery center, after the turbulent commotion, was cold and quiet. The criticisms and greedy gazes from the day replayed in her mind. But Grace decided she would no longer cry. Steadying her trembling hands, Grace opened her laptop. First, she logged into her online banking. Then, she began to scroll through years of transaction history. On the screen, the number $5,000 was stamped on a consistent date every month, without fail. From March 2019 until now, precious money her father had sent for her independence and dignity long before she was married. Grace moved the mouse and began to take screenshots. 1, 2, dozens of screenshots piled up. These records, clearly showing the sender's name, the date, and the amount, were not just simple records. They would become a powerful weapon to silence their greed. Early the next morning, her husband David came to the recovery center. In his hands, he awkwardly held a container of soup. David, glancing at Grace's expression, placed the soup on the table. Grace, I was really sorry about yesterday. I brought you your favorite chicken noodle soup, so please have at least a spoonful. Though David's voice was laced with apology, Grace didn't believe his sincerity. Accepting the soup, she asked in a calm tone, "Thank you. But there's something I need to confirm with you." David looked at Grace with a puzzled expression. What is it? Why so serious all of a sudden? Do you remember the exact date we got married? Why are you asking that? It was February 2020. Our anniversary isn't even here yet. Why are you suddenly checking dates? At David's answer, Grace gave a chilly smile and asked again. Then you also knew that I started receiving $5,000 a month from my parents before that, right? Correct? David hesitated, flustered, and averted his gaze. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? Can't we not talk about money first thing in the morning? Just answer me. Am I right? Yes. I had a rough idea you were receiving it before we got married. But what does that have to do with anything now? Grace opened the laptop she had set aside and shoved it in front of David's face. Seeing the screen filled with transaction histories, David's eyes began to waver. See? It started in March 2019. More than a year before we got married, this was money my dad gave to me. David swallowed hard and stared at the screen. Why did you screenshot all of this? Why are you being so scary? Are you planning to show this to my mom? His voice was filled with anxiety. Grace calmly closed the laptop and replied, I don't know about that. But since your mother keeps making these ridiculous claims, I figured I should be prepared to defend myself. Grace, please don't do this. I know mom can be a bit much, but she's saying all this because she wants us to do well for the baby's sake. What good will come from fighting with her? David once again took his mother's side and pressured Grace. For my sake? If it's for the baby's sake, then why is she demanding to manage my personal bank account? Does that make any sense to you? That's because you're still young and have never managed a large sum of money, so she's worried you might spend it recklessly. Do you think she's doing it because she's greedy for your money? Recklessly? It's my money to spend as I please. Why is that reckless? Do you or your mother have a single penny invested in this money? At Grace's cold question, David ran his hands through his hair in frustration and shouted, Grace, why have you changed so much? You used to be so gentle and kind, but after having the baby, why have you become so vicious? I haven't changed. I've just finally woken up. If I keep letting myself be a fool, my child will also be swayed by those greedy hands. Grace, seeing that conversation with her husband was pointless, turned her head away. That afternoon, a flood of calls came from her sister-in-law, Jessica. But Grace didn't answer a single one. Then, a sharp text message arrived. Grace, pick up the phone. Mom is about to collapse from your attitude. Answer the phone while I'm asking nicely. Grace read the message and coldly ignored it. But soon after, her mother-in-law Brenda called directly. Deciding she couldn't avoid it this time, Grace answered. And Brenda's shouting immediately erupted. Grace, why are you ignoring my calls? Do you think you can disrespect your mother-in-law just because you're in a recovery center? I was busy taking care of the baby. If you have something to say, please say it. Fine, I'll make it short. Tomorrow, after you're discharged, come straight to our house. We have a lot to talk about. What do you want to talk about? The management of the account. I told you. Create a new account in our grandson's name and hand over the debit card and PIN to me. I'll manage it and grow the money myself. So you just shut up and do as you're told. Brenda's voice was as arrogant as a ruler who had already decided everything. Grace clenched the phone and replied in a steady voice. I simply do not understand why you think you should manage my personal assets. If you manage it yourself, who knows where that big sum of money will leak out to? You, who've been living off your parents' money until marriage, what do you know about the value of a dollar? I'm sacrificing myself for the sake of your family. Grace couldn't help but let out a dry laugh at Brenda's condescending tone. Brenda, the money I receive is an allowance that has been coming to my account since before I was married. It's not money that appeared after childbirth, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your family. What do you mean it has nothing to do with us? You're now a daughter-in-law of this house, raising our grandson. A married woman has no business talking about my money. Once you marry in, your body, your mind, and your assets are all for the common use of this family. Got it? As Brenda screamed, Grace retorted coolly, No. What? What did you just say? I said that I will absolutely not entrust my money to you. You ill-mannered brat. Are you talking back to your mother-in-law? Is this what your tycoon father taught you? My father raised me to be a decent human being, not to cower in front of someone who covets another person's money. Stop coveting my money. I'm hanging up. Grace ended the call, cutting off Brenda's screams. The hand that put down the phone was not trembling. Grace turned her laptop back on and found a file from 2019, before her marriage. A financial support and asset management agreement she had drafted with her father. It clearly stated that the monthly payments were for Grace's independent living expenses. Grace took a screenshot of that document as well and muttered to herself, "Now it really begins. I'll soon make you realize that what you've touched isn't just money, but a lion's whisker." Grace's eyes shone with a sharpness they never had before. It was the afternoon 2 days before her discharge from the recovery center. Without even a knock, the door burst open, and her mother-in-law Brenda appeared, with sister-in-law Jessica in tow. "Grace, let's get this sorted out properly. If we just let this slide, we'll only end up seeing red later. Let's settle this today." Brenda's voice was low, but it carried a heavy pressure. Grace looked at her mother-in-law with a blank expression and asked, "What more is there to talk about?" "That $5,000. Tell me the truth. Your father started giving that to you specifically after our David's son, my grandson, was born, right? It's like a childbirth gift, isn't it?" At Brenda's question, Grace answered calmly, without a hint of hesitation. "No, Brenda. As I've told you several times, that is money I have been consistently receiving from my parents since long before I was married." At that, Jessica, standing beside her, snorted and interjected, "Before the marriage? Oh, Grace, does it make any sense to hide such a large sum of money from your spouse? I just didn't feel the need to report every detail to my husband. It's my personal allowance." Grace's confident demeanor made Jessica's voice even sharper. "What kind of logic is that? Spending $5,000 a month on your own allowance? Mom, look at this. It's clear that Grace is trying to deceive us. Maybe the money only started coming after she gave birth, and now she's making up a story." At Jessica's provocation, Brenda nodded as if on cue and changed her tune. "Exactly. That's what I'm saying. At first, she said she started receiving it after childbirth, and now she's insisting it was from before the marriage. Are you lying because you want to hoard the support funds meant for my grandson?" Grace sighed, took out the laptop she had placed by her bed, and turned on the screen. She then displayed the bank transaction history she had prepared right in front of their eyes. "Look here. This is the history starting from March 2019. The date, the amount, and the sender's name are all clearly visible." Seeing the screen packed with records, Brenda's and Jessica's pupils shook violently. The number 2019 was irrefutable evidence that could not be covered up by any excuse. Jessica, flustered, muttered in a shrinking voice, "It's real. It's really been coming in since 2019. It is real. What would I gain from lying?" At Grace's words, Brenda was momentarily speechless, but soon glared fiercely and launched another attack. "Then why didn't David know about it? What was the reason for hiding it even from your own husband? Were you secretly saving it up to backstab my son later?" "I didn't hide it. As I said, I just didn't feel the need to mention it. Is there some law that says I have to disclose all my personal assets when I get married?" Grace's voice was completely steady. It was Brenda and Jessica who were flustered. Jessica, glancing at her mother, asked cautiously, "Mom, then this money has nothing to do with the birth, right? That's a bit different from what we thought." When her argument was thwarted, Brenda suddenly erupted in anger. "What do you mean it has nothing to do with it? Who is she the mother of? Isn't she the mother of our family's grandson? Then, the money from her parents should naturally be used for our family, for our grandson. Once you're married into this family, your body and your assets are all for the common use of this family. That is not a matter for you to decide, Brenda. It is a matter for me to decide." At Grace's firm refusal, Brenda seemed to lose all reason and screamed, "What do you mean, decide? You do as your mother-in-law says. Who do you think you are to talk back to me? Brenda, just a moment ago you said the money should be saved for the child, but now you're saying it's family money. Could you please tell me for what exact purpose you intend to take my money?" At Grace's pointed question, Brenda's lips trembled as she resorted to a tantrum. "It doesn't matter what. The point is that you can't spend it as you please. If you have that much money, you'll get a big head and start looking down on my son. Do you think I'd just stand by and watch that happen?" Jessica, standing beside her, hastily tried to calm Brenda down. The eyes of people passing by in the recovery center hallway were already fixed on their room. "Mom, calm down. Everyone can see you. Please, just sit down for a moment. Calm down? How can I be calm when this audacious girl is disrespecting me like this? Do you have any idea what a grave sin it is to talk back to me like this? At Brenda's shouting, Grace calmly asked back, "What have I done? I am simply stating that I want to protect my personal rights." Rights? What rights does a daughter-in-law have? Once you're married, your right and duty is to support your husband and listen to your mother-in-law. How dare you talk about my money? At Brenda's absurd statement, Grace actually let out a dry laugh. The right to manage my own money is a right that every citizen of this country has. I am only reacting this way because you continuously covet my money. When did I covet it? I said I would manage it for you. I was sacrificing myself because I was worried you would spend the money recklessly and ruin the family. Recklessly? Have I ever caused trouble with money in my entire life? Frankly, the management you're thinking of feels far more Baranagay. At Grace's words, Brenda's face turned beet red as she jabbed a finger at her. Even if you haven't yet, you will in the future. Just look at that stubbornness. You are a truly frightening girl. Jessica also chimed in, cornering Grace. Grace, be honest. Where have you spent all that money so far? $5,000 is not a small amount. Give us a detailed breakdown. I bought clothes for myself, gifts for my parents, and daily necessities. The rest I saved. You spent all $5,000 on that? And how much did you save? We're family. Shouldn't we at least know that much? At Jessica's rude question, Grace retorted coldly, I don't believe I need to tell you about my savings. Just because we're family doesn't mean we have to share every aspect of our private lives. At Grace's firm attitude, Brenda finally shot up from her seat. Fine. If you're going to be like this until the end, then I have a plan. I'll talk to David directly and settle this. I'll ask him if he can continue to live with a wife who disrespects her mother-in-law and acts high and mighty because of her family's money. I'm not disrespecting you. I'm making a legitimate claim. Don't give me that. You're completely ignoring your mother-in-law. If this isn't disrespect, what is? Let's go, Jessica. There's no point in talking to such a venomous girl any longer. Brenda and Jessica slammed the door shut and left. Alone in the room, Grace looked out the window and smiled bitterly. On the last morning at the recovery center, Grace called her father. Dad, it's me. Grace, how are you feeling? Her father, Robert's voice was calm. I'm okay. But Dad, can I ask you for a favor? Go on. The money you send me every month. Can you put it down in an official document? Robert was silent for a moment. What's wrong? My in-laws are claiming that money is for the baby and that they should manage it. What? Robert's voice lowered. I have proof that I've been receiving it since before the marriage, but I think it would be better if you could clarify its nature. All right. I'll have it sent to you by the end of the day. I'll have my lawyer draft it. Thank you, Dad. Grace, if things get tough, call me anytime. Okay? Yes, Dad. As soon as she hung up, David walked in. His face was pale. Grace, Mom called. She said she's going to contact your father directly. Fine. Let her. Grace answered calmly. What? Let her? Are you crazy? I'm not crazy. I'm just trying to settle this. Settle what? This is going to turn into a huge fight with your father involved. David raised his voice. It's not a fight. It's a confirmation of facts. Since your mother is so curious, my father can just tell her himself. Grace, please don't do this. I feel like I'm going crazy stuck in the middle. You're not in the middle. You're my husband. You should be on my side. Grace looked David straight in the eyes. I know, but what? You've never once been on my side. That's not. Then why didn't you stop your mother when she said she wanted to manage my bank account? David fell silent. At 2 p.m., a text came from Robert. Document sent. Check your email. Grace opened her email. There was an official document stamped with a law firm's seal. Affidavit of financial support. I, Robert Carter, hereby confirm that I have been providing my daughter, Grace Carter, with a monthly sum of $5,000 as a personal living allowance since March 2019. This amount is provided solely as personal support for my daughter and is in no way related to her marriage or the birth of her child, having been consistently provided prior to these events. Grace took a screenshot of the document and sent it to David. Show this to your mother. Grace, isn't this going too far? Too far? It's just confirming the facts. What about Mom's pride? Did your mother ever consider my dignity? Grace's voice was cold. An hour later, a call came from Brenda. Grace didn't answer. A text followed. Call me now. What is this? Grace read the text, but didn't reply. Soon after, Brenda rushed to the recovery center, with Jessica in tow. Grace, what is the meaning of this? Brenda shouted as she burst through the door. Brenda, please lower your voice. Lower my voice? You got a document from your father to make us look like what? I was just confirming the facts for you, since you were so curious. This isn't confirmation, it's humiliation. It makes us look like people who are trying to steal our daughter-in-law's money. Brenda cried, her voice trembling. I can't do anything about how it looks. You can't do anything? This is all because of you. I was only protecting my rights. Grace was still calm. Jessica jumped in. Grace, isn't this really too much? Getting a legal document and sending it to us. I sent it because it was necessary. Necessary? It's completely disrespectful to us. It's not disrespect, it's clarification. Clarification? So what now? That money has nothing to do with us? Jessica asked demandingly. Yes, that's correct, Grace replied firmly. Brenda's face went white. Grace, are you drawing a line with me now? I'm not drawing a line. I'm confirming the line that was always there. The line that was always there. My money is my money. You have no right to interfere. Grace's voice was unwavering. Interfere? I'm your mother-in-law, the grandmother of your son. You still cannot manage my money. You ill-mannered brat. Brenda raised her hand. Grace didn't flinch. Go ahead. Hit me. It will only make things clearer, Grace said quietly. Brenda's hand froze in midair. Jessica quickly grabbed her mother's arm. Mom, no. There are cameras here. Brenda lowered her hand, but her eyes were still full of rage. Fine. If you're going to be like this, then I have my own plan. David is on my side. That is a decision for my husband to make. Grace offered no further explanation. Brenda and Jessica left. Grace held her baby. The quietest person had ended the game. A month had passed since she returned home. Grace was drinking coffee after putting the baby to sleep. A call came from Brenda. It had been a week. Grace didn't answer. A text came. Can I at least come see my grandson? Grace read the text and didn't reply. She deleted it. David came home from work. Grace, Mom called again. She wants to see our son. I see. What do you mean? I see? You should give her an answer. What do you want me to say? Grace asked, while warming the baby's milk. Just tell her to come over. No. Grace, she's his grandmother. If she's a grandmother, she should come to see her grandson. And she shouldn't talk about my money. Grace's voice was serene. She won't talk about that anymore. She saw the document. What guarantee is there that she won't? David couldn't answer. Honey, if your mother really wants to come, she needs to apologize first. For everything she's done. Apologize? Yes. For trying to manage my money without my permission. For spreading rumors that my family was wealthy. For treating me, a new mother, like a suspect under investigation. I want an apology for all of it, Grace said calmly. Isn't that a bit much? She was just thinking of her grandson. If she was thinking of her grandson, she should have been worried about the mother's condition first. David couldn't argue anymore. The next day, a call came from Jessica. This time, Grace answered. Grace, it's me. Yes. What is it? Can I come see my nephew? I don't mind, but please don't bring up managing my account, Grace said bluntly. Oh, that. Mom just got a little carried away. You should understand. It wasn't getting carried away. It was a violation of my rights. Rights again? Come on, that's just how family is sometimes. Jessica was still trying to downplay it. Being family doesn't give you a free pass for everything. Grace, why are you so rigid? You weren't like this before. Before, I was just holding it in. Grace's voice was cold. Holding it in? What do you mean? I'm not holding it in anymore. So your family should be careful, too. Be careful of what Jessica couldn't finish her sentence. The call was disconnected. A week later, Brenda and Jessica came to the house. They rang the doorbell, but Grace didn't open the door. Grace, it's me. Open the door, Brenda shouted. Grace held the baby and went into the back room. Grace, we just came to see the baby, Jessica also shouted, but the door remained closed. An hour later, they left. When David came home from work, he was angry. Grace, Mom came all the way to the house. Why didn't you open the door? Not without an apology. An apology for what? What did she do wrong? If she doesn't know, she should think about it. Grace said calmly while changing the baby's diaper. You've completely changed. Where did the old Grace go? I haven't changed. I was always like this. You just didn't know it. David was speechless. Another month passed. Contact from Brenda ceased. Instead, rumors reached her through relatives. The daughter-in-law is completely disrespectful. She's using her rich family to look down on her mother-in-law. She won't even let them see the baby. Grace heard the rumors but didn't react. She didn't explain herself. One evening, David asked quietly, "Grace, if Mom really apologizes, will you forgive her? Is she planning to apologize?" "I don't know. With her personality, it seems unlikely." "Then there's your answer." Grace held the baby and looked out the window. "But Grace, don't you have any regrets? Pushing things this far?" "Regrets? Not at all. Even if you grow distant from your family like this, they never felt like family to begin with." Grace's answer was clear. David didn't ask any more questions. 2 months later, Thanksgiving was approaching. A text came from Brenda. "Shouldn't you be coming for the holiday?" Grace replied, "Apologize first, please. What did I do wrong? Think about it. You were the one who was wrong first." Grace didn't reply again. She blocked the number. On Thanksgiving Day, David went to his parents' house alone. Grace went to her parents. "You must have had a hard time, sweetie." Her father, Robert, hugged her. "I'm okay, Dad. How are things with your in-laws?" "We're not in contact. I blocked them." "Good. You don't have to put up with that." Robert stroked his daughter's hair. "Dad, is it okay if I keep receiving the money you send every month?" "Of course. That's your allowance. No one can interfere with it." "Thank you." In her father's arms, Grace cried comfortably for the first time. At her in-laws' house, Brenda confronted David. "Why didn't Grace come?" She said, "She's not coming." "Not coming? It's Thanksgiving. She said she would come if you apologized." "Apologize for what? What did I do wrong?" Brenda, to the end, only justified herself. Evening came. Grace returned home and put the baby to sleep. A text from David was on her phone. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." Grace read the text but didn't reply. Revenge wasn't about destroying the other person. It was about making them exit her life. Grace looked out the window. It was quiet. It was peaceful.